couple of weeks ago I actually did an open tag where we had 10 questions in a would you rather scenario, all to do with horror films. I will leave the link to the original video in the description box. If you fancy doing it, please go and check it out. It was kind of a lot of fun to kind of put together, and I have seen some really great videos obviously doing their tag themselves, and some really quite fun answers. But I didn't give my own answers on that video because I didn't want to influence people with what I thought. But I'm going to go through my answers now to my own tag video, and we'll discuss. So now these are going to be obviously I am going to read the questions out. This is also going to have my answers. So if you just want to do your own tag, obviously you can just use this one, or you can go and check out the original tag video, and I've actually listed the questions in that video in the description box. So number one. Would you rather spend a weekend in the cabin in the woods from the Evil Dead franchise, or Camp Crystal Lake, which is of course famous for Jason Voorhees and the kind of the Friday the 13th? So I've left some of the questions rather vague, so obviously people can have their own, you know, their own thoughts on it. But my view would be this: it would be Camp Crystal Lake for a number of reasons. With the Evil Dead, let's assuming that obviously the evil has awakened, because otherwise, you know, it's kind of just going to be a cabin in the woods. But let's assume that it has. There, I feel that you are risking, you know, if it's to believe that universe, your soul is going to be ultimately sucked into whatever hell dimension that they're. Jason Voorhees is just going to kill you. You don't too have to worry about your soul being sucked into hell or anything like that. And I've got to say, it's just a guy ultimately. You know, obviously that's kind of been changed in later iterations and stuff like that, but I feel like you may have a better chance of just getting away and not making the same kind of like horror movie mistakes that maybe people would. So if you were in there, for me at least, I feel like I'd have a better chance of survival in Camp Crystal Lake, and if I were to bite it, at least I think I'm just going to die. My soul's not going to be sucked to hell or anything like that. Would you rather receive Chucky or Annabelle as a gift? For me personally, this was actually a tougher one, because it depends on, you know, how long we're talking here. Because the thing with Chucky, he's a physical embodiment in this actually, and in this doll. So if you can restrain Chucky, if you can kind of just put him in some type like a cage or something like that, you can contain him because he doesn't have any power outside of that really. However, with Annabelle, it's a possessed doll and really has supernatural powers which are somewhat undefined, in which case it can do whatever it wants ultimately, so it's a little bit harder to kind of contain, even though Annabelle's MO is a little slower. So Annabelle is not going to just murder you straight away. She will try to do kind of like, you know, if you've seen the Conjuring films, it's all about kind of like a build up and kind of like wearing someone down and kind of ultimately trying to possess them rather than trying to kill them. But I think with Chucky you'd have probably a better chance, because I feel he is containable. Would you rather be a prisoner of Jigsaw from the Saw films, or the Hostel from obviously the Hostel movies? Now with this one, you'll have to assume that you are a prisoner. I've seen some people's videos saying, well, I haven't done anything wrong, you know, Jigsaw only kind of like captures bad guys or whatever, but let's assume he has got you for whatever reasons. You are in the trap. I would personally go for the Hostel, because I would say Hostel is more escapable. I personally think. I mean, they're both not great options. Don't get me wrong, but you have, as pointed out in a couple of videos, people have escaped from the Hostel movies. So I think there's more variables at play, I think, in the Hostel films, and I think you'd probably have a better chance, although it's a slim one, of maybe escaping from them. And you know, the worst case scenario, if you do get escaped, you might get shot, but it's better than being tortured. Number 4, you had to be trapped in a room for 24 hours with either Hannibal Lecter from Silence of the Lambs, etc., or Regan from The Exorcist. Now, here's my thing on this one. I'm a big guy, so I wouldn't have a problem having a problem tackling Hannibal Lecter, if I'm honest with you. If it's just me and him trapped in a room, unless I'm tied up or something, if we're just basically both in there, you know, I don't go to sleep, I'm not going to have a problem being overpowered by Hannibal Lecter. I could take him, but I would still pick Regan from The Exorcist. And why? is because I'd be curious just to kind of like, you know, if this scenario was real and Regan really was possessed by a kind of a demon, I'd want to know things. I'd be interested to kind of find out. I mean, I always think with possession films, when someone's possessed, what's the demon's end game? What do they actually want to do? Do they want to walk around and kind of live in society? What's their actual end game? I'd be really curious to kind of just have that that kind of that idea about that conversation. And like, you know, in itself, Regan may not actually. If she is possessed, you probably wouldn't be too much in danger, I don't think, unless you know have a weak heart or something. But I think it'd probably be all right. But it would just be more interesting to kind of like really find out a little bit more about the underworld and that sort of stuff. Okay, if I had to go on a date with either Jennifer from Jennifer's Body, played by Megan Fox, or Syl, played by Natasha Henstridge in Species. Now there is a male option for this, but I am heterosexual, so I will pick the female options here. You have a similar problem with both of these kind of ladies, is that they are, on the surface of it, they can be pretty, you know, attractive, but obviously they have hidden things that go on there. And they're both similar in the way they operate, if we're honest. But I would say probably Syl is your better bet, because you simply don't do anything. If you could go on a date and you could just necessarily have to have sex with them, I think you may stand a better chance with Syl, because you just don't do anything basically. Okay, would I rather spend 12 hours in a Purge Night, obviously in a city where the Purge is going on, or 12 hours in a city in the 28 Days Later universe? And pretty much I think every video I've seen has picked the Purge universe. But you're wrong, and I'll tell you why. So I'm going to pick the 28 Days Later universe. Now, and my reasonings for this are, dealing with the Purge, you are dealing with individuals, each of whom are intelligent and who have weapons. So you can hold up in the night, but you are dealing with a variety of different people with different personalities, and some of whom are going to, you know, maybe get a sense that you're maybe hiding somewhere and go after you. With the 28 Days Later universe, you are dealing with mindless kind of like animals, basically. So if you are to hold up somewhere and you just kind of like barricaded yourself and you've only got to survive 12 hours, if they didn't get wind of you were there, you're golden, you're fine. You can just hunker down for 12 hours. And as long as, I mean, we see it with Robert Carlyle's character in the second movie, he's just in this kind of, this place, just kind of like keeping out their way. So as long as you kind of are able to ultimately become undetected, there's no reason why the rage infected people would actually really look for you. But with the Purge movies, people will start have weapons. The 28 Days Later are just kind of like on foot basically and unarmed. And obviously with Purge, someone can, you know, snipe you from a window, stuff like that. I actually think you'd have a better chance if you kind of, you know, used your head in the 28 Days Later universe. And I'll also point out the fact that I didn't say you couldn't have weapons in either of these. So there's no reason why you know, even if you were in the 28 Days Later universe, you couldn't have weapons. Weapons exist in that universe, so obviously there's no reason why you wouldn't have a weapon in that universe. So that is my answer to that one, which I think is different from every other video that I've seen. Number 7, would you rather be part of the team on the Blair Witch expedition or the Grave Encounters expedition? I'm actually going to have to go with pretty much the majority here. Both aren't great options, and well, I mean there was Survivor in the Grave Encounters one, and there's no survivors in Blair Witch, so you will go mad admittedly, but ooh, it's a toughie. I still say the Blair Witch, because I think if you just kind of like followed the moon or followed the sun or something like that, you will probably be, you know, I know it has this kind of, you can't get out, but your probably options are better because you are outside, so you probably have somewhat of a better chance, whilst Grave Encounters, you know, you're basically screwed, even though there was a survivor from the first movie that went into the second film. Anyway, so I'll go with Blair Witch still. Would you rather ride the shark in Jaws for 10 seconds or the crocodile in Lake Placid for 10 seconds? So here's how I envision this movie. You are basically put on the back of one of these creatures and you've basically got to stay on there like a bucking bronco for 10 seconds. Now, most people have picked Jaws. I would actually pick the crocodile for 2 reasons. First of all, a crocodile has much more rigid skin, so there's to hang on to it, I feel you've got a better chance for 10 seconds than hanging on to a shark, which is essentially a very smooth skin animal. There's nothing really to sort of grab onto necessarily. You've also, the way crocodiles are in real life, they have very weak muscles to open their mouth. So if you were able to hold, let's say you were to get front end, if you were to hold the mouth shut on a crocodile, you've got a fairly good chance of keeping that shut for 10 seconds. Obviously, you can't stop it from closing, but if it is closed, there's a good chance you'll be able to hold it shut for 10 seconds. You've got no chance of the shark. The PSI in those bastards are well high. And don't forget, a shark is, you know, a crocodile breathes air. Shark is purely, obviously, it's underwater. It's going to be, it could dive, you know, however deep it wants. A crocodile is probably not going to go too far under the water. And I never actually specified that both have to be in water. So if you're talking about the death roll, you know, I still think you can hang on for 10 seconds potentially, but then say it has to be in water. It could even be on land. So that'll be my answer for that one. Okay, would I run from a alien from the Aliens films or a predator? I would run away from a predator. Again, for a number of reasons. For one, if a predator catches you, it's just going to kill you, and it's going to be a reasonably quick death. If an alien gets you, it's going to take you back and stick you on that wall, and then ultimately you're going to get a face hugger on you and impregnate you and stuff like that. Probably not as fun, if I'm honest, rather than a kind of a straight kind of blade to the guts like the predator's going to give you. With the predator as well, it will have a certain degree of rules, in fact. So if you are unarmed, it's not going to shoot you with its gun. You may have a a better chance, and if you kind of beat it, ultimately, if you've looked to the films, obviously they kind of will at least sometimes give you a level of respect, and not that I can think I can beat a predator, but if there is that chance, they'll pay basically go, okay, fine, you beat me, here's your kind of reward. With alien, it's just an animal, it's just going to keep on coming and keep on coming. And you know, you've obviously got to deal with acid blood and everything like that. So I actually think, not that a predator is going to be easier to do, I actually probably think an alien is maybe easier to fend off. But the chances of you dying a very painful death are going to be quick and easy with a predator. So I'll go with that. And would you rather watch a circus with Pennywise or a stand-up routine featuring Freddy Krueger? And I'll go with the majority in this one. I'd probably go with Freddy Krueger stand-up routine. At least you have a few laughs before you die. Pennywise would just be like, you'd be constantly uncomfortable. So that's my answers for my own questions. I hope you found them amusing. Maybe I put a bit too much thought in them. Anyone who hasn't done the tag yet is welcome to. Like I've said, I'll put the original video in the description. Feel free to do a tag if you want. Anyway, thanks for watching, and bye for now.